Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Big Guy Fantasy Sports Fantasy Football Consistency Show. As usual, I'm your host, Bob Lung. Sitting on this guy to the right is Ron Rigney, who is thinking about starting Joe Gardner. Cool, Mr. Gardner. Mr. Mustachio Gardner over Joe Burrow, which at this point I'm kind of with him. As you can see in my little add-on this week, I love the song by Drunken Pool.
Drowning Pool.
Drowning Pool. Why did I say Drunken Pool? I wasn't drinking. Drowning Pool. Let the bodies hit the floor, and I'm like, yep, that's the NFL right now, folks. They are hitting the floor left and right. Poor Nick Chubb and Nick Chubb owners. Thank goodness that I never draft Browns players because of this reason. Because it would be bad enough. It's bad enough I got to suffer through the Browns without Nick Chubb. To have him on my fantasy teams on top, it would just be suicidal at that point. I would be hitting the floor, drunk in the drunken pool.
That would be the drunken pool.
Ron, welcome back. Welcome to week 2, end of week 2, heading into week 3. How's things in your leagues going? Are some of your bodies hitting the floor on your teams?
Yeah, I was telling you off air, this is probably the hardest I've been hit by injuries in probably a couple seasons, and it's week 2, and it's not getting any better. And it's just total, complete carnage. Nothing good about it. But I'm keeping afloat. I was able to draft a couple guys in a couple leagues that paid off that were on my bench. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, in the Kings Classic, 14 teams. You can start 3 flex. There's no defense or kicker, but you could have up to 6 wide receivers, 5 starting running backs. So, yeah, finding those little nuggets of joy. And we're going to talk about a few of them this week in our picks to click. They're helpful, and they've certainly saved my team so far. 2-0 and 1-1 the other. But, yeah, I got beat by 35 points after scoring 135. While the rest of the league was all scoring under that. Well, at least most of the rest of the league. So, but those things happen. It's part of consistency. You're going to have, if you put out 135 points there each week in our Kings Classic League, just like probably in your own league, you know what that level is. You put them out, you put the points up there, you're going to win more often than not. But you're also going to lose some. You're going to be like, that's not fair. That's okay. If you score 135 next week, you might win by 35 yourself. So if you're scoring points, I always say if you're in the top 6 or even 8, if you're above average scoring total points, don't sweat it. If you're not, sweat it. Maybe we'll find some waiver wire picks for you here as well. So, all right, Ron, let's take a look at the quarterback position. Who do you got? Who's one of your favorite picks of the week that you'd like to talk about?
So I had to go with this guy last week. Actually, that makes 2 weeks I've gone with him. Guy that I've had to throw in there in one of my Kings Classic leagues, as you just talked about, it being a 14-teamer. You got those, you got that deep roster, or everybody's got a deep roster, but you got to get those quarterbacks. And I had Aaron Rodgers. I waited a little bit. I didn't want to wait that long, but I hopped aboard that hype train as well. We all saw how that went. So I had to rely on Baker this week, which I had Baker and CJ Stroud. So I had some pretty good options there, but Baker's been 2 for 2, pulling out the clutch games. And this week coming up, he's not turned the ball over a whole lot either. And that's one of the things, because with the Bucks being on down here, it's something that, I've got to watch him play quite a bit. He's actually got 3 touchdowns and no interceptions through the first 2 games. He looked pretty sharp. He's made some plays. It took him a little while to get going week 1. Looked a little bit sharper last week, went for over 300 yards, had a score. And the guys he has on the outsides are still pretty good. Chris Godwin's pretty good. Mike Evans he'll be a Hall of Famer. He's done things that nobody has done over the length of his career. So I like Baker Mayfield going into week 3. I'm looking for another clutch game here. And you look on the schedule, and it looks a little scary at first because you see that they're going against the Eagles. But when you sort by fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks in fantasy football, lo and behold, guess who's number 1? The Eagles. So that prompted me to look, oh, man, they must have went against some rushing quarterbacks and put up some stats. That's not the case either, guys. This has been through the air. They've only allowed 2 rushing attempts by quarterbacks for a grand total of 15 yards. So it's not like they're playing Lamar Jackson or playing Josh Allen from week to week. They're allowing this through the air, and they've only created 1 turnover via the interception. So with the guys that he's got, I know that Eagles pass rush, if they can protect Baker, which they've been decent at so far, not much of a challenge from that Bears front 4 last week. But if they can give him a little bit of time to throw and get those guys on the outside, I think it's going to be 3 for 3 clutch games for Mr. Baker.
Yeah, he has looked good. I mean, a lot of people have always said if he was in the right system with the right team, right scenario, that he can make this work. And so far, he's making it work in Tampa Bay. So totally agree with you. And interestingly enough, as I looked at the fantasy points allowed per game, guess who's right just below the Philadelphia Eagles in fantasy points allowed per game? It is the LA Chargers.
So
and guess who they get to play this week? Our boy Kirky. We all love Kirky. We loved his performance there on the quarterback show on Netflix, which was very cool. He's, again, just like your boy, he's 2 for 2, and he played Tampa Bay and he's played Philadelphia as well. So this week he goes against the Chargers. They're giving up 25.1 fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. Again, second to last, right above the Philadelphia Eagles. I right now, that offensive line cannot block for the run to save their ass. It's just plain and simple. Alexander Madison is getting hit in the backfield before he gets the ball. That running game is just pretty much non-existent. So at this point, we're really at a spot where, you have to look at this and go, hey, we're going to keep Kirky. He's got Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison certainly is playing well. KJ Osborne's filling in as the 2A, 2B, whatever you want to call him. Of course, they have TJ Hawkinson as well. So I think Kirky's definitely got another clutch game under his belt here coming in week 3 against the Chargers. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and here again, he's throwing to the best receiver on the planet. He's got TJ Hawkinson there, and he's having to get the ball out quick, because like you talked about, that offensive line is not doing much. And we see them trying to get Alexander Madison the ball out in space, and that's not working either. They're throwing down the field and having success. So I see no reason for him to slow down, man. He's been the guy. My son drafted him on his fantasy team as his QB1, and I gave him so much crap about it, and he has not shut up about it since. So I'm kind of eating crow on that one. But yeah, no, there's no reason to think he can't go 3 for 3.
Absolutely not. All right, so let's go to the running back positions. Again, some amazing numbers when you look out there. I mean, we all expected Christian McCaffrey to be at the top, but Kyren Williams 2nd, Brian Robinson 4th, Raheem Mostert 6th, James Cook 9th. I don't think any of us expected that. So, Ron, let's talk about some of the guys, the guy that you have out of that group, particularly that you want to talk about at this point.
Yeah, so looking at the running backs this week, guy that I brought up that I was able to scoop up just one place, but it is one of my Kings Classic leagues. I did draft him late, took a flyer on him. Guy out of Notre Dame that I liked a lot, and that's Kyren Williams. And coming out, I think he was a 5th-round pick. Wasn't one of the more heralded backs in that class, but when you watched him at Notre Dame, one of the things that he was really good at was catching the ball out of the backfield and reading blocks, making the play. A good vision. Wasn't super fast, wasn't super quick on his cuts, but just really solid. Just looked to me like it'd be a solid running back. And then fast forward, he's overtaken the job from Cam Akers. I keep getting all these Bleacher Report things popping up on my phone that Cam Akers is getting traded here or there. So Cam Akers is pretty much done. There's really not a ton behind Kyren Williams, but he, like I said, he's super solid out of the backfield. Had 6 grabs, 48 yards last week, 52 yards, and got you in the end zone. So if you're in a more shallow league, last week was probably the week that you wanted to get him. Maybe if he's still out there, you got to run to get him. But I think he's a guy that you got to start, because he's going to be one of the focal points of that offense.
Yeah, totally agree with you on Mr. Kyren Williams. Picked him up in a couple of leagues that I had Cam Akers. Hopefully we'll save my butt. We'll have to wait and see. You never know. Maybe it'll be a double bonus. Maybe Akers will get picked up somewhere as well. Can't imagine it'll be a starter, but just weird how they went from this guy's the man. We're not going to draft anybody else. We're not going to pick anybody else up. Right. And then within a half a game, you've decided that your 5th-round running back is going to be their future. Okay, fine. We'll see. But hey, what do we know? Nobody else drafted Paku Naku or whatever his name is, and Tutu Atwell, which I know you're going to talk about a little bit. But my guy is Brian Robinson. Amazing story, this guy, after he gets basically Ebola goes through his knee, comes back, and this year now it looked like he was going to share time with Antonio Gibson. At least that was the talk all summer. And again, within a half a game. I mean, he has busted out 2 clutch games, 13.6 points last week, or 2 weeks ago, 28 something this week. Definitely went hog crazy. This week they do get to go. They do have Buffalo to tend with. A little bit better defense. They're not as strong as they used to be. They're in the middle right now in giving up fantasy points to running backs, about 21 per game, which is a lot, but they're still in the middle because 32-4 is the Las Vegas Raiders. So definitely in the middle, average defense. So I think Brian Robinson continues to roll. They like him. He's a tough, gritty runner. Gibson isn't the guy. Plus, they've got so many other weapons. Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, all these guys. Logan Thomas has been good. So I just don't think that Antonio Gibson's just getting the ball as much as they thought he would. So definitely like Brian Robinson as well. Your thoughts on Brian Robinson? Do you have him in any leagues? Did you pick him up any? I mean, I probably was drafted even in 12-team leagues, but
No, I have him in one of my dynasties, and that's the only thing I was able to get him in. I feel like he's a player that I got sniped on quite a bit in seasonal leagues for whatever reason. And I 100% spot on with that. When you watch him, he's just clearly the better player. He's a better runner. I think he's even a better receiver. And somebody was talking on NFL radio about the target share or the snap share that Antonio Gibson's getting. And I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but I just remember saying in my head, wow, that's all he's getting. I mean, it was like it was close to single digits. I mean, he's not even seeing the field, and there's no reason to. Brian Robinson is clearly the better player of the two.
Right. Always good to have that second backup running back for the Commanders. But definitely like him. All right, we move into the wide receiver position, and you got a guy that's not the top guy on his team, but could probably be one of the top fantasy players of just about any other team in this league. Who are you going to talk about?
Yeah, so if you were somebody that missed out on Puka Nacua, which a lot of people did, I think the only place I even sniffed his name is a league I have is a dynasty. Plus, we have like a 7-round rookie draft. So you're just plucking guys out of nowhere, and that's kind of when he first got on my radar as a late pick, and that's paid off quite a bit. But if you were looking at any other Rams receiver other than Van Jefferson, other than Cooper Kupp, you were probably looking in this guy's direction based on the amount of speed he has, and that's Tutu Atwell. As we said off air, we figured out that Tutu is 2 for 2 with those clutch games, and he's a guy that has gotten 17 targets. Kind of came on a little bit last year when he got some playing time, but just kind of out of necessity this year with Cooper Kupp being out. Van Jefferson, I think I'm one of the people that has wanted Van Jefferson to be a thing for a long time, and I just feel like that ship's kind of sailed. Yeah, I think he's kind of more, that wide receiver 4 or 5 flavor. But these guys have stepped up. They've used that speed that they have, and they've been targeted early and often by Matthew Stafford, who's looked like he's reached the fountain of youth, and he's a new guy. But I love those 17 targets over the first 2 weeks. He's caught 13 of them. I think it's only a matter of time before he gets in the end zone, but he's a guy that's very, very hard to defend because of that speed. But I think Tutu has a really good chance to go 3-3 this week.
Love it. So I'm going to go with Josh Reynolds. I drafted him in actually both of my Kings Classic leagues because it was late. It's 14 teams. You're like just scrambling for anybody who has a pulse at that point. And I'm like, well, Marvin Jones is 105 years old. He's probably not going to be the guy. Well, how about, and I read some good things about Reynolds in preseason. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pick him up. St. Brown seems to get injured every once in a while. Seems to get banged, always has those little nicks, which he has already. And so I didn't actually start him in the first week, but he had a really nice game against Kansas City, 12 points, 4 for 80. And I'm like, all right, this guy. So got him in the starting lineup, and thank goodness I did. 5 for 66, 2 touchdowns, 23.6 fantasy points. Certainly helped me win one Kings Classic league. Should have helped me in the other, but, it is what it is. But, yeah, I think going forward, again, as we said, St. Brown's already nicked up. This seems to be a trend for him. He has a couple good games, little injury, plays, doesn't play the whole game, kind of back and forth. And we still got to week 6 or week 8 for our boy Jameson Williams. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think Reynolds will stay and hold that spot, even if Jameson does come back and is 100% healthy and he's ready to go. I think Reynolds has a spot in this offense. They're going to throw the ball a lot. Their defense can't stop anybody, as you saw in the Seattle-Detroit game. And so, yeah, I think this is a great one. If he seems to be out there somewhere, grab him. If he's on somebody's bench, grab him, make a trade for him, something. But it may be too late. But definitely love this kid so far. So, your thoughts on Josh Reynolds? Did you pick him up in anywhere?
I did. I was able to snap him up in a couple places, but man, if you do have him, there's some hard decisions that have to be made this week because of injury and because of just flat out no production. And that's one of them is who do I start Josh Reynolds over? And luckily I don't have too many. It's a pretty clear cut thing that I've got guys hurt, but man, it's starting to really look tempting to start him over some of those guys that we spent some of those high picks on because he costs you absolutely nothing. He's kind of, just kind of found money, I guess, when you're getting to those rounds in those flex spots.
Yeah, sometimes those are the kind of things you look at and you go, hey, I've got this guy on my bench. I should trade him before he loses value and maybe upgrade make him and, somebody else that you may be able to upgrade. Might be a good time to, swoop in, grab an A.J. Brown, get a Jamar Chase because they need depth. I was talking about that last night with my daughter's boyfriend. He's got the opposite side. He's really hurting at running back because he had Chubb and I think it's Madison. And I'm like, yeah. So I said, you may have to go make. So he actually did one trade, James Cook and Amari Cooper for A.J. Brown.
Oh.
And he's like, but you love A.J. Brown. I go, I know I do, but you need the depth. You need a
running back. There was actually one of my new leagues this year. There was an A.J. Brown trade this morning. I can't think of what the price tag was, but man, you're starting to see some of those trades. You're like, whoa, wait a minute, somebody's giving up on some. Oh, here we go. Rams sending breaking news: Cam Akers to the Vikings for a swap of 2026 draft picks.
Ooh.
So there we go. It has happened.
Alrighty.
So Kyron Williams officially the guy.
And now Cam
You're
Akers,
first,
maybe,
folks.
So for those of us like me who have Cam Akers in some of my leagues, now I'll be like, oh, okay, now I can bench him for Madison.
Yeah.
Bench Madison for him, and maybe he can. I don't know. I still think that offensive line stinks. And I don't know if it's going to make a difference, but maybe it is. Maybe Madison just isn't the guy he used to be. But anyway, all right, let's take a look at the tight end position. Ron, who are you looking at that's been looking good so far, and you're going to keep riding that cowboy?
Guy that I only have a couple of shares of, but a rookie, and we know how rookies and consistency don't really go together, but we definitely know how rookie tight ends and consistency don't really go together either. So this is a guy that I was a little scared of drafting. Got him super late in a couple of leagues as my second tight end, and that's Sam Laporta. And we've seen, you just talked about Josh Reynolds. Jared Goff's not afraid to sling the ball all over the yard. I don't know where Jared Goff came from in the last 2 or 3 years, but man, is he fun to watch throwing to everybody on that field. And Sam Laporta is a guy that is not, taking over TJ Hawkinson type numbers, but I think he's a guy that's capable of that later on. Spent a draft pick on him that wasn't all that high, so he's kind of a diamond in the rough a little bit later on in the draft there. And a guy that's come on basically averaging 5 catches for 50 yards. And when we're talking in terms of a clutch game, when we're talking in terms of consistency, 5 catches for 50 yards most weeks is going to get you a clutch game. So he's 2 for 2 so far. They play the Falcons, who kind of middle of the pack against the tight end. They have allowed 10 catches, but only for 73 yards, but they're one of a handful of teams that's allowed at least 1 touchdown. So there's a little meat on the bone there for, like I said, for Jared Goff, even though the Falcons defense is a little bit better. I think Sam Laporta could be a sneaky guy that could go 3 for 3 this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, that offense has got to continue to throw the ball. St. Brown is nicked up and either doesn't play or doesn't play at capacity. Yeah, I mean, that's where the Josh Reynolds and Sam Laporta come into play this week. Definitely like that scenario as well. My guy, I'm going to go back to an old man. I think Zach Ertz is almost the same age as I am now, but you know how much I've loved Zach over the years. He's always been one of my favorite, very consistent tight end. But there was just so much talk all summer, and we had this conversation about all summer. It was like we didn't even know if he's going to play week 1 or when. And with a team that allegedly is supposed to be tanking, but they're certainly trying very hard not to tank. They've been putting up some decent numbers, scared the hell out of the Giants last week. And especially me, because I picked the Giants in one of my Survivor leagues. that had my heart beating. But yeah, He's seven. Zach Ertz, the seventh in total points, 2 for 2 in consistency. Josh Dobbs seems to like him, throwing him the ball. This week they got to play Dallas, so you know damn well that pass rush is coming. So Zach Ertz could continue to put up some decent numbers. He might get 5 catches for 35 yards, but maybe he'll get 10 catches for 35 yards. But hey, clutch game's a clutch game. No matter how we get there. I don't know if he continues. I don't know if he can stay healthy. Obviously, the Trey McBride experience has gone away. Who knows? It's, as we look at tight ends in general, again, it's a complete mess from what we'd expect. Now, granted, Kelsey missed a week, and so did Mark Andrews. So, but, Hunter Henry's in second place. Sam Laporte is in fourth. Hayden Hurst is 6th. Ertz is 7th. Logan Thomas is 8th. Kylan Granson, who just had his baby picture taken with his first touchdown catch, which was one of the best things I've ever seen on Twitter in a long time by a football player. If you haven't seen it, go find Kylan Granson. There's no D. It's not grandson. It's Granson. And go find his Twitter. He actually has pictures like he just got a newborn baby, but it's his football of his first touchdown he caught. It's fantastic. Him and his wife did a great job of doing that. But and Cole Kmet's 10th. What? In what world is Cole Kmet 10th?
My world.
And so if you didn't hear some of the top tight ends listed, like Andrews and Travis Kelce, and Njoku and Tyler Higbee, I'm sorry. I apologize for Tyler Higbee. All of a sudden they found pass catchers, so they don't need him anymore. It hurts.
He got puked.
He certainly did get puked. So it's just, as usual, a hot mess. Kelce and Andrews will get up there. Hawkinson will stay there. Waller so far is 5th in total points, but he's 1 for 2. So even him. So again, I've heard a lot of talk about after, we've always kind of now foo-fooed kickers and defenses not to draft him anymore. There's literally been talk about getting in leagues where there'll be no tight ends drafted either. It's sad, but it's really getting to that point that it's just tough. But yeah,
I know a lot of people have told me they've switched. Their leagues have switched and made it a wide receiver tight end spot.
Yeah,
so you don't even have to start one if you can start another receiver if you want to.
Right. So if you want to draft Kelce, you can, and it makes sense because he'd be 4th in overall. But yeah, if you don't want to, you don't have to. Maybe we'll do that in King's Classic.
It's worth a shot.
We'll do that, and then we'll just say it's 1 quarterback and 7 flex. You can draft whatever you want, up and down.
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want. Whatever you think wins. But all right, Ron, tell everybody where they can find you, all the great stuff happening at Big Guy Fantasy Sports, and then we'll take it out.
Over at BigGuyFantasySports.com, you just said it. We got Colby and I working on our Week 3 lineups. We didn't earn a clutch game last week. I think the prop bets did a little bit better. So hopefully this week we'll be able to get back on the winning track there. Hopefully some of these guys will start to come alive, and we'll actually see, maybe Jamar Chase score some points, and maybe that'll boost everybody up. I don't know. But you can find me on the X machine and the Twitter machine at Ron Rigney. And real quick, the random football card of the week this week. I don't know if you can see that, but it's from that iconic 1986 top set. Got the Walter Payton right there. And I got a bonus one for you as well. If you have not seen Micah Parsons play football, you need to do yourself a favor. He is on another level right now as far as the things that he is able to do. I'm sure you've seen him. They've had a couple national games. They're on national TV every week. But if you've not, pay attention to him the next time you watch the Cowboys, because he is definitely the most fun, at least defensive player to watch in the NFL right now.
Absolutely. And I can't remember, who did they pick Parsons over and everybody was upset about? There was an offensive player, and I don't know if it was Jamar Chase or somebody like that they thought that they should have not have taken Micah Parsons. And there was some stud, I don't know, wide receiver, running back. I want to say it was wide receiver because they had Zeke in his prime. But I remember there was just like massive hysteria in the Cowboy world that they screwed up and they shouldn't have done it, and they should have picked this other guy to be on the other side of CeeDee Lamb or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but yeah. And then now everybody's like, "Oh, great pick."
Yeah,
Jerry knows what he's doing. Damn it,
Jera.
Sometimes. All right. You can always find me at Bob_Lung on the Twitter machine. It will always be the Twitter machine, just like the Cleveland Indians will always never be the Cleveland Guardians. Sorry, folks. So Twitter machine for me. Of course, you can find the Prop It Like It's Hot. And folks, we are hot. 5-1 last week, 9-3 for the first 2 weeks. We are winning some cash. You need to check it out. Colby and I are really smoking it. I can't remember. Well, the one we lost was Luke Musgrave. That was it. 32 receiving yard, or it was 41 receiving yards. You got 32. We are 9 yards away from 6-0, but yep, doing it, really crushing it. So make sure you check those out this weekend as well, with the Prop It Like It's Hot article and podcast as well. So for Ron Rigney, I'm Bob Lung. Everybody have a great week. Take care. God bless. Stay consistent. We'll see you next week.